Blurple Croc.
It's loading.
Blurple Crocodile is a leader that I've had my eyes on ever since he came out, but now with OP4, he gets some more stuff that he didn't have before. We now have a heavy removal package, which is great against a lot of the field, as well as we're able to keep a hand size of 5 or more cards because of the leader's effect. We can do this on our turn and our opponent's turn, now that we have removal spells such as 3000 Worlds and Red Rock. We also have Dragon Twister, which is a new counter card that we're going to be using. We now have a great late game package due to 8-drop Crocodile and 10-drop Kaido. This offers removal and life gain that we didn't have previously. Some of the cons with this deck is that we're not able to go wide like a lot of decks, so our board will usually be 2 to 3 units plus our leader. We're going to be drawing a lot of cards and cycling through cards, so sometimes the hands can get bricky as we might have 2 of our late game bombs that we're just not able to play, so we need to get rid of them. Due to cards like Gum Gum Rain and the new Crocodile's effect, we're able to filter those out and have ideal hands. The deck can lose to certain aggro decks that just go fast enough while we're not able to establish a board in time. It's not always the case, and aggro decks aren't the boogeyman necessarily. Here is the list. I'm going to start up top. We have 10 blockers. Miss All Sunday works with our leader. A lot of times she can be just an extra 3000 Worlds or Gum Gum Red Rock because of her on deletion effect. 3-drop Dofi blocker can also act as a searcher when you play him by rearranging the top 5. Later in the game we can play him the turn before we play Crocodile. We can choose which life we're going to recover. He can also attack into some smaller units when playing against the aggro deck, and if his leader goes after his blocker and we also get a unit off their side of the field, then he's done his job. We run 2 1-drop Trafalgar Laws. Sometimes when we play a Crocodile for 8 and we have 1 under a leader, say we have a Gum Gum Rain in our hand, we can deploy this unit and have just a 1k blocker on the field. It sometimes is just the defense that we need. Ms. Valentine's is a searcher that can come out of life, and it can also grab itself. When you're looking in the top 5 getting a Baroque's Work card, this can grab things like our Crocodile, 2k counter, or a Miss All Sunday. We run a total of 8 2ks, 4 of which being Mr. 2 Bon Clay, and 4 Mr. 13 and Miss Friday. These cards don't have great effects, but they are Baroque's Works, and they're able to be searched off of Miss Valentine's for when we need that extra defense. 5-drop Miss All Sunday is a 4 of. You can cut her down to 3 if you need space for some extra cards, but it's one of the cards that we want to see on curve just because it's nice to ramp and draw a card and also having a unit. Late game 2, we can recover her out of life and play her on the field, and it'll just be the body that we need. Soaker King was a late addition to the deck, and ever since I've added it, honestly, it's done so much work. Being able to bounce one of our opponent's characters and then drawing 2 and trashing 2, we also get a 6k body off of it. It's just so much value that the deck needed. 8-drop Crocodile is kind of unique to this deck as it can only be really played in 2. This Crocodile and the purple-yellow Crocodile, but I feel like it shines more here just because Blurple is a better leader. Being able to recover a life is huge in this deck as we start with 4, so having this card makes us feel like a 5-life leader and sometimes even a 6-life leader. When our opponent attacks, we can also put back a Dawn to draw 1 and trash 1. This can really help with late game hand filtering to get the counter that we need. 10-drop Kaido is a beast. Dropping this on the board against Whitebeard and bouncing one of their things, and sometimes even one of our own units, as it doesn't read our opponents, can just give us more counter and tempo that we need. Also, being a 12k body swinging to anything is nothing to laugh at. Last but not least, we have our events, which are kind of the star of the deck. We run 3 Gum Gum Rain, as being able to trash something and give 3000 life, and also drawing a card off of our leader's effect is just absolutely broken. You can run the purple one that does the same thing. It adds a Dawn out of life, but this one also returns a cost of 2 or less, so if you're playing an aggro deck, seeing this in life is probably more advantageous than just ramping a Dawn. Dragon Twister is a new counter event that takes the place of Love Love Mellow. Where Love Love Mellow was able to draw us an extra card if we needed to, this one just does a lot more. It has a triggered effect out of life that bottom decks a 6 cost or less, which can be a huge tempo swing if they swing with 1 unit and have one that hasn't swung yet, and we're able to bottom deck it. It can also bottom deck a 1-cost character to the bottom of my opponent's deck, which is just huge against aggro decks. 3000 Worlds is great because it costs 4, and sometimes we can just play 2 of them, get rid of 2 units on their field, and having Miss Sunday just means that we're playing 7 copies of this card. Gum Gum Red Rock is the best single target removal, and playing 4 of these and 4 copies of Miss All Sunday means that we have 8 copies in the deck potentially. This just gets rid of any threat that we don't want to see on the field and put it to the bottom of the deck so we don't have to see it again. Yellow may have 10 drop Big Mom, but we have Gum Gum Red Rock, and every time they drop 10 drop Big Mom, I'm gonna Red Rock that hoe. When playing against Whitebeard, we want to mulligan aggressively for Red Rock. Being able to keep their units off the field is huge for tempo, as they only usually play 1 per turn. 10 drop Kaido can bounce one of their units and one of ours to hand, so we have extra counter, and they also have 1 off the field. You usually want to save 2 to 3 blockers in your hand on the turn that it looks like they're going to go for game, and then just drop those down, and if they don't have the Rush Luffy, then they're probably dead in the water. Zoro and Law are tricky, but they're not auto losses. Dragon Twister is our friend in this, as we can bottom deck a Buggy or one of the blockers on Law's field, and it feels amazing. Miss Valentine's can add a huge advantage to the deck, as we're able to search for a 2k and then have a body on field, and we didn't lose a card out of hand. Don't be afraid to hold back and not swing at them, and swing at their field. Usually late game, they'll have 4 to 5 life when we're going for the kill, and we'll just chip away at them in the late game. Katakuri can be an easy matchup as long as their life is just not cracked, but that can be said for any deck. So some of the strategies that we deploy against them is we don't attack the board, we just remove it when we can. Be careful swinging into them in the late game, because if they get a body out of life that they needed to win, then you just lost the game. So be mindful of the chips, and keep a removal card in hand just in case at the end if you need to remove something. Save Red Rocks for Big Moms. They're going to drop them, just get rid of their 12k body and then drop a Kaido, and then you have the board. Blurple Croc feels like a control deck, and that's what I've wanted from it since I've seen it. It just hasn't had enough pieces until now. With all the new additions from OP4 and OP3, and removal cards that we have, the deck is finally where it needs to be. I definitely feel like it can compete with the meta, but I don't think it's necessarily like an S tier, maybe an A tier deck. Maybe more of a B on the fringe of an A- deck. I'm planning to run this in at least 1 regional to see how it does, maybe just have the element of surprise. I'm really excited to play that deck there. If you have any thoughts, put them below in the comments. I'd love to discuss this deck. I've been working on it probably ever since OP2 or OP3. And go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it, and I will see you in the future as always. Peace.